I feel like I'm living through a nightmare. I don't even know where to begin with this update. So much has happened, and some of it I know you people won't believe. Hell, I barely believe it myself. It's like something out of a video game. Alright, I left you guys with a sort of cliffhanger in the last post, and I'm sorry about that. So I got into my neighbor's house. I had never actually been inside but one time to use the bathroom at a cookout. He was an older guy whose wife had just passed a few years earlier. He was usually in good spirits and would keep up with the lawn and such, just living out his life. His house was actually pretty nice, given the circumstances, and nothing else was really touched. My neighbor, though, he didn't fare well against these things. And I'm not sure if it's because he didn't listen to the alert or what. I wish I could unsee what I saw in his bedroom. I turned the corner into the room and realized there were maroon bloodstains all around. It looked like someone had exploded from the inside. Viscera covered an entire corner where I saw a pile of mush. Just skin and mush. I ran out of the room and got sick again. I took a few minutes to collect myself and went back in. It was my neighbor. It had to be. His walking stick was right there next to him, bent. At least he got one last shot in, right? It took a second, but I realized something. There were no bones. None that I could see, at least. I know why now, but didn't realize it at the time. I looked around the room, and everything seemed fine and intact. It's weird. These things seem to be immensely strong. Give an example from my neighbor's remains, but they don't break down doors. They don't seem to have any sharp claws that I can see. I don't get it. I had made my way back into the hallway and was trying to pull my mind together when I heard something downstairs. A door opening. I froze for a second, snapped out of it quickly. I shuffled down the hall and tried a door. Locked. Shit. I tried the door adjacent to it, and thankfully it was not. Unfortunately, though, it was another bathroom. I slightly sighed, but got into the bathroom lightning fast as I heard something coming up the little stairs, and that same grunting sound again. I felt like my eardrums were going to shatter in that hallway. I slammed the door shut and locked it. I checked the inside and there was a window, and it led to the first floor roof. Okay, good. I had a way out. I heard the thing creep up to the door, and yet again try the handle. This time, though, it was a little different. Since there was only one of them so far, it just kept trying. It sounded like it was using a drill and just constantly trying to turn the knob. I was afraid that the thing was going to fall off. I opened the window and looked around. I heard that same grunting in the distance, but I saw nothing around the side of the house. I crept out onto the roof and closed the window as best I could. I forgot to turn on the shower, but oh well. I surveyed the outside and still didn't see any of them. The ones from my house either left or were also inside my neighbor's house. I hopped down off the roof into the bush, avoiding any injuries and without making too much noise. Once I was down, I realized I had no fucking clue what I was going to do now. I quickly decided I was going to take a shot through the woods and into town. I needed to know what was going on and if it's also happening in town. I booked it for the tree line and made it. I looked back and saw nothing. No creatures after me. Thank God. I proceeded to lightly move through the woods towards my destination. As I made my way through, and I know the area pretty well, I smelled something awful, and I knew the smell. I came upon another carcass, this one more recognizable. Well, it was actually two. Two deer that were flayed open, more precisely this time. It was almost like a surgeon took 10 hours and meticulously opened them up and took out their bones. I don't understand how, but I didn't have much time to look. As I stood there, I heard a rustling nearby. I ducked over by a fallen tree and stayed as still as I could. One of the creatures was meandering by. It came upon the carcass and studied it for a minute or two. It didn't seem to notice me, thankfully. I was about 20 yards from it. It just stood there, eyeing the remains. And then my stomach dropped. Out of its forearm or wrist, I think, came this long protrusion. There was no blood or anything, and I didn't see it there before, so it had to come out of it. It was like a long butcher's knife. The creature's arm popped and cracked into another position and bent down, slicing at the carcass. It pulled out another bone, maybe 6 inches long. It then bent down, cracking its spine out of place, and sucked up the bone. It stood back up and made some more revolting, popping movements, and made a sighing kind of noise. Apparently, it was happy with itself. It looked around a few times, then started walking back from where it came. I waited a good 5 minutes to make sure nothing else was around. I could hear some birds and more grunting way out in the distance, but that was it. I got up and started back on the trail. It took me a little over 30 minutes to walk into town through the woods. It was nice out at least. A small shine of light in the last insane 24 hours. I made it to the edge of town and was at the back of the gas station. Everything seemed normal until I turned the corner. The amount of viscera I can't even explain. I don't know whether it was animal or worse, but it was everywhere. Some I could tell were for sure animal, and some I could tell was for sure person. It felt like I was walking into a horror movie scene. I was not okay. I turned around and started walking away to the bank. It's the first place I could think of going, since it seemed more secure than any other building around. Thankfully, I was right. I made it to the back and tried the door, but it was locked. I looked around the front and saw one of those things. He was on the corner, just staring out, almost not moving at all, just swaying back and forth a little. I picked up a sizable chunk of loose concrete on the ground and threw it as far as I could past it. It snapped its neck so hard to the noise that it literally fell limp, then reconfigured and started moving towards it. I still can't get over how they fucking move. It's so unnatural. A few more came out of nowhere and joined it. I had no idea where they came from. I started to move along the wall towards the front of the building, and then froze. One of them was shambling past the front door, and was headed right past me. I held my breath, watched as it moved past me, seemingly not paying attention. As it was just past, I coughed, letting the air out. It perked up and looked right at me. Fuck. I sprinted towards the front door and made it, but not without injury. The thing must have taken a swing at me as I was running and I felt nothing. I don't know if it was adrenaline or what, but it took a nasty swipe at my leg, and it was now bleeding pretty badly. I used the little that I had left in me to lock the door, but the whole thing was glass and I wasn't going to take a chance. I put up a few fake plants and trees in front of it and tried moving a table, but it was too heavy. I limped back to behind the front desk and took off my shirt. I ripped it and wrapped it around my leg as tight as I could. It stopped bleeding a little while later, I guess, but I passed out, so I don't know how much blood I lost. I woke up to those things pacing around the outside of the bank. I can see them all through the windows. I can't count how many there are. They just seem to keep coming. There's maybe 50 now? I don't know. A few of them keep making that damn grunting noise, and I'm sure it's bringing them in. I'm on the bank's computer now, and there's nothing on the news about this at all. I've started hearing vehicles, though, coming from somewhere. It's a low rumble, but I know it sounds of a truck or something. There's also jets or planes or something. Maybe helicopters, I don't know. Those things aren't even trying the door as far as I can tell. They're just shuffling around outside like zombies. I feel like I'm going crazy. If anyone out there, in my town even, is still alive, please help. John, Jerry, Mark, Liz, I'm sorry if you're out there and I can't help you. I'm going to sleep. I can barely keep my eyes open. I haven't eaten in so long, but there's a vending machine across the room. I might try and get to it, but it'll show these things I'm still in here. Till next time, stay safe.